And here we are, another build log, back again in front of my computer. This time I've got Kirito's other longsword. Again, no name, no idea what the heck I'm going to name that tutorial. But here are just the reference pictures I am using for this particular build. All from the same episode. Unfortunately, these may be the only shots you can get your hands on with this sword, because I have yet to be able to find anything from like an art book or something about it. So this will be what I will be working off of. Primarily the sword's design is going to be based off of this shape right here, mostly because of this one angle. I like the way how this is angled versus this angle here. This is actually two different angles. This particular piece looks like if it was it's coming at about 45-degree angle, while this one comes out at about 30. But since this shot is a little bit off angle, it's a little bit distorted, so I'm not going to bother with that. That and having this come off at a 45-degree angle creates a very, very wide blade in the finished product, so I just kind of wanted to avoid that. I prefer the more slimline, sharp look. So I'm going to go with this one instead. Another issue is with the gem. I'll cover that later. This shot for the handle, it's not the same length as his other unnamed sword. As you can tell, it's already pretty not too sure what to say with about this one, but either way, shot I used for that. For a second there, I thought that would have been the blade for it. I was like, wait, that can't be right, but apparently this was the sheath. Really interesting looking sheath, very form-fitting. The gem on this, I have yet to find a plastic gem that will match the dimensions on this, so I may have to go ahead and build that out of paper as well. So that's going to be a little number crunching to do there. Here's one close-up of the crossguard. So I'm going to be building the crossguard based on this picture. I am not looking forward to doing this little section right here. These little two band, mostly because the build material I'm working with doesn't really allow this kind of shape very easily anyways. So I'm not looking forward to that at all. This blade shape, I have no idea where they got this blade shape, but this is the only time it appears like this. So I'm thinking artist fluke. So I'm just going to leave it. Not a big fan of this shape. That also includes a curve, so that kind of complicates the cut a little bit. Keeping the sword a little bit simpler than usual, so just straight lines primarily for this one. So going with this shaped ricasso, mostly because it appears more often in the anime. So if it appears more often, chances are they intended it that way. Whereas this, I don't know. This could be just an oddball. Alright, so the cut sheet is done. Got shape for the handle, blade as usual, and then a lot of people have been requesting that the tip be added into this, so here's the tip for that. Although one thing to note is that the distance between these 2 points and these 2 points are not the same. So do not assume that this edge is a straight line. It tapers. You'll notice here that there is a little grid. This measures 1 inch by 1 inch. That is so you can double check against a ruler just to make sure that the print came out all right. The template is actually already drying. It's been there for the good part of almost 3 days now because I had actually ran out of ink. Most people don't know this, but I actually draw the cut sheet and then I build by my own cut sheet. That way, if there was something wrong with it, it will turn up in my final product and I can correct for it before I finally upload that so you guys get the right copy. Alright, so we're back at the table. I've yet to set the center line of this thing. What a lot of people have tried to do is actually just measure both ends on that, and typically you don't have a ruler that size. So what I do is I take my compass, open this up to same width as the paper, not as the paper, as the template I'm using. And then using that, just simply, hello, draw just like a little light X shape on it. So, don't know if you can see that, it's very light. And then I do the same thing at some point down the blade, like over here for instance. Now I wouldn't put any more marks than these, just these 2 points. And then just draw yourself a straight line. That is your center line. And then from there, you'll build everything off of that center line. And then your sword is pretty much guaranteed to come out straight. Alright, so now that we got our center lines drawn, this is what I do with the cut sheet. Typically, I just simply go and cut out the parts that I need. Let's start with the handle piece. Okay. Cut it in a way so that the center line markers actually run off the page. That way you can tell when this is lined up with the center mark on your template. Use some masking tape to hold this down to the template, and that's pretty much it. You just do this thing to every piece you need to cut out from the blade and go from there. I'll get back to you when I'm done with this. Alright, so we're back with that. As you can see, most of this stuff is taped up and ready to go. All we have to do now is get a ruler and connect all these points together. And then we have our final template before we start cutting. Alright, so what I like to use is this, what's this called? The yardstick. Forgetting all my names here. And pretty much connect this point over here, I don't know if you can still see that, to wherever I ended that tip at. So this would pretty much give us our gradual taper that we need. See if I can actually get this thing lined up. Oh, I moved it. Crap. That's the one issue I have with rulers this size, is that I always tend to let my hand go and it sticks to my fingers, and then I wind up moving the ruler all over the place, and then I have to dick around with redrawing lines 4, 5, 6, 7 times at worst. Alright, that pretty much gives us our line we need, and then we just do the same thing with our handle. Now, let me show you guys something. The masking tape I'm using isn't just, you know, any old tape. This stuff is like a painter's tape, except this one isn't really meant for painting. It's just the duck, whatever the heck brand this is. This brand. The thing about this particular color of tape is that you can see through it. So let's see, like right here for instance, if I were to tape over a drawing, you can see what's underneath it, so you can still see well enough to cut whatever it is. Unlike that blue tape stuff, that is something I would use if I'm painting something. So just a little lesson on masking tape there. So the way this works here, instead of trying to keep the cut sheet and everything taped to the template throughout the entire process of cutting it out, what I do is I just simply get a straight edge, score a hard line into it, or not a hard line to it, cut into it, make that initial cut with the crafting knife, and then once I'm done with it, just peel everything off. That way I have everything I need cut directly into the template, so there's no need to reproduce a drawing onto the template. Okay, so just now I had snapped the tip off of my X-Acto knife, as you can see. Occasionally this will happen, because when you have all this pressure focused on this thin little tip, you are bound to break it or dull it out. Now the moment you break one of these or dull one out, don't bother salvaging it, just replace the blade. These things aren't that expensive, and quite frankly I burned through maybe 3 or 4 of these on a single project, so they're like $2 for 5. They're not that expensive. So go ahead, replace it. It's not worth ruining a cut for. But as far as this goes, this is just the usual structuring of popsicle sticks. Nothing special here. I'm not going to go too heavy with it. It's probably 3 layers. And then just panel over it. It's going to be another showpiece. So, get back to you when we're all done with that. Here comes the part I absolutely hate. Especially with swords with this sort of blade design on it. There's 2 types of swords I absolutely hate. One is katanas, and the second is any sword with this kind of blade design. Because this just has to be the thinnest, most narrow portion, and what would be the thickest support layer. So it takes 4, 5, 7 tries just to get everything to stick properly onto this thing, and I could spend a good 2 hours on one side just trying to get it right, because you put too much pressure on it, next thing you know you're going to leave a crease and it's going to look absolutely ugly. You don't do it right and then the edge profile looks like crap, so I am not looking forward to paneling this. So, gotten the first piece of this on. I can already tell you that underneath where this usually would be, at the very vertex of that, there's going to be a gap, so this is going to take 2 or 3 tries at least to get everything all covered down. But luckily this time it's just all straight angles and not curves and whatnot, so I don't have to deal with curves, because those are probably the most annoying. But yeah, this is just one piece of what, maybe 6 or 7? No, 6 or 8. How can you have an uneven number of this? I don't know. But yeah, let this dry. I'll go back to do something else, and gotta figure out what to do with this pommel, because there's no way I'm leaving it this thin. Alright, back again here, and address a little issue I believe I touched upon in a previous tutorial, but I don't think I have done a build vlog where I explained what this is all for. Right here is actually just my phone. I'm using the flashlight on it, and this is just a little stand I built out of scrap sheets of paper and whatnot. The idea behind this is that the lighting conditions in my room causes a bunch of shadows to be cast over whatever places I'm cutting, so it makes it pretty difficult to see. So the idea behind that flashlight is to shine it at an angle to get rid of those shadows, just so you can see what you're doing. Now, as far as seeing what you can do, if I can not butcher my words, got these things. Now, oh hey, the camera can pick this up. Okay, these are I believe +2 diopter reading lenses, so it effectively gives I think it was like a 1.5, or it was like a 2 times zoom pretty much. So I have these just pretty much attached to my regular glasses, flip them down, and a little bit of zoom for up close work. So remember when I said that I may have to build the gem in the middle? I did a little bit of you'll see. This is what, 2.5, about 2.5-ish. So yeah, we can call that, 25 millimeter, 25, 26-ish. And check that out. Stumbled across this thing. It's a millimeter shorter, but it's not like I need it to fit perfectly in something or another. But here's the catch. Why is shipping nearly as expensive as the product I am buying? I don't get. But either way, I'll be using this to get that center gem. I'll post a link to this particular product. Check the description for that. And then luckily, I also found a bunch of these smaller gems. These are, I think the smallest one I found were 6 millimeters. They come in 6, 8, 12 millimeters. So yeah, maybe finally I can finish Excalibur. I just gotta decide what color gem to put on the pommel. Alright, so we are back this time with a sword fully paneled. Now I started paneling this thing almost, Thursday evening? It's Sunday night now, so we're working on and off on this thing. What I said earlier about those little corners did happen, as you can see. They're not, I can't even get this in the camera. Focus. But yeah, there's a little bit of gaps in this little corner here, but nothing too much. I'll just Mod Podge over that a little bit, and then when I spray paint it, it'll cover that up. Just have the handle to cover, and that will be that. And I can start doing some of the detail work. I still gotta wait for that gem to come in because I placed the order for that about a day or so ago. Not supposed to be in here until sometime middle of next week. And then along the way, I decided to do this with the pommel just to get a little bit of thickness on this thing. And not really too sure what else to say with this thing. It's coming along fine. No, not too many snags. Well, there's one little piece on this blade here. I pinched it a little bit too hard. Some glue got spread too far along the template and glued that piece down with it. So when I broke it apart to fix that, it left a little bit of a thickness difference. I don't think you can see it on camera. Actually, hold it like this. Yes, you can. But yeah, hopefully the paint will cover that. Another issue I want to talk about is these tight little corners like this. Since they are so close to the support, they leave a very hard ridge line down the middle. You can probably see that. Now, a lot of people have sent me pictures of their swords, and unfortunately, for the most part, that ridge line runs along the entire blade. That is something that's not desirable. The tip can somewhat be avoided. On a sword like this, with this style of a hilt, it's almost impossible to avoid. So luckily there's stuff going on top of that to cover that, for the most part. Alright, so at this stage, I have the handle and everything covered. This gave me a heck of a hard time, especially trying to get these little, this little crevice here, so that wasn't too nicely done. But, whatever. Things covered, swords covered and paneled. The only thing I gotta do now is wait until that gem actually comes in, because I'm not gonna put on that little decoration piece for the guard just yet, because I kind of want to build it around that little gem because of how sharp this, or not sharp, but how steep this angle is, this little surface here. So yeah, I'm gonna wait till that gets in here. It should be in about 2 or 3 days. So I'm gonna put this aside and work on another project. Alright, so the gems have come in, and I've already noticed one problem. I did not think this through before I ordered it, but these gems are square. What I needed was a rhombus shape. So this does not work. Wow. On top of that, the angle on this is too steep for this to mount. So just gonna say, forget it. Just go ahead and build one. Alright, so we're outside, just getting ready to spray paint. What I have here is a sheet of paper that I have hit with several coats, different thicknesses of coats, just to see what kind of colors I can get out of this one can of paint. Speaking of which, the spray paint I'm using is just a really generic brand. These are like $1. But the color I'm going to go after is this right here. So to do that, I'm just going to hit it really lightly from a really far distance, at least a good 12, 13 inches, and then just work on it in thin layers, just so you don't get any runny spots, dark spots, what have you not. Alright, so final assembly stage. I have to put clamps and popsicle sticks on and whatnot just to hold some of these in place as they dry. I didn't want to use hot glue, just because of they dry unevenly and it would leave some gaps in this. But everything's painted. A little gem thing has been made. I just gotta wait for this to dry, repeat it to the other side, and I can show you what the finished sword looks like. Alright, so here's the finished sword. Not too much to say about this one, other than it's a pretty straightforward build. Show you how this little thing came out. The way I clamped this thing, just kind of contoured it toward the paneling. Looks okay. Some pretty sharp edges. I'm pretty sure if I were to wield this around, I would end up wearing those edges out, and then they'd start feathering. But I'm just gonna leave this on the wall. Not gonna do much with it. I opted not to attempt the ring thing. Instead, I just kind of wrapped a silver band around it and just called it a day. The pommel came out okay. Kinda meh to it, but whatever. And then there's this small little blue plastic gem. That's a 6mm acrylic rhinestone thing. I put it there just for the color contrast. Nothing too much. And then decorations, I didn't bother trying to conform it or anything. I just kind of pasted it on there and just left it so you can kind of see underneath it a little bit. But whatever, not too concerned with that. And then the thing with the blade, after painting it, you really can't tell much. Maybe you can see it in the reflection a little bit, but not as bad as before. That's what really matters. From distance, you really can't tell at all, so no big. Other than that, I think I'll be done with sword art for a while. I'm gonna try something new.